I was reading Phillip Stratton-Lake's introduction to his edition of W.D. Ross's famous book, The Right and the Good, and came on a paragraph that, well, to put it bluntly, shows an understanding of the relationship between natural and moral facts that I take to be entirely mistaken. In this paragraph, Stratton-Lake attempts to argue that moral properties can't be natural properties. I want to argue that his argument fails. In doing so, I'll explain exactly how moral properties are, in fact, natural properties. So here is the paragraph in question. Quote, "For although science can tell us, for example, that certain animals feel pain, it cannot tell us that this empirical fact gives us reasons not to do certain things, say, boil them alive. In pointing out that certain animals can feel pain, most scientists will have little doubt that this empirical fact gives us reasons not to boil them alive. But their belief that we have such reasons will not be the result of scientific investigation. All such investigation reveals is the non-normative empirical fact that a certain animal can feel pain. It does not reveal the normative fact that this empirical fact gives us reason to act in certain ways." End quote. Okay, now let's start with the first sentence. The first sentence says, quote, "For although science can tell us, for example, that certain animals feel pain, it cannot tell us that this empirical fact gives us reason not to do certain things, say, boil them alive." End quote. Well, this sentence is true. Scientists can't tell us that this empirical fact gives us a reason not to do certain things, like boil the animal alive, but this is because the empirical fact doesn't give us a reason not to do certain things, such as boil the animal alive. For us to have a reason to do something, we must have a desire that would be served by doing it. For us to have a reason not to boil the animal alive, we must have a desire that would be served by not boiling them alive. The empirical fact that the animal feels pain may play on an existing aversion to causing pain, but it will not create that aversion. Consider the case of the lion and the antelope. The fact that the antelope will experience pain on being caught and killed by the lion means that the antelope has a reason to run from the lion. But these empirical facts don't give the lion a reason not to catch and kill the antelope. And the fact that the lion will starve if it doesn't catch the antelope gives the lion a reason to chase the antelope, but it doesn't give the antelope a reason to stand there and get caught. Now, the next two sentences. Quote, "In pointing out that certain animals can feel pain, most scientists will have little doubt that this empirical fact gives us reason not to boil them alive. But their belief that we have such reason will not be the result of scientific investigation. Scientists may have little doubt that this empirical fact gives us reason not to boil the animals alive. However, those scientists would be mistaken. The empirical fact yields no such conclusion." So what's true? What can the scientist legitimately infer without making a mistake? Well, it's true that there is a reason not to boil the animal alive. The animal has a reason not to be boiled alive, therefore a reason not to boil the animal alive exists. Now, the animal might not be aware of this reason, and the animal might not be able to act on it, but being aware of a reason and being able to act on it are not requirements for a reason to exist. I may certainly have a reason to add more iron to my diet. I may not be aware of the fact that the reason exists, and I may not be in a situation in which I can add more iron to my diet. However, if adding more iron to my diet would be such as to fulfill my desires, then I have a reason to add more iron to my diet. From the fact that the animal has a reason not to be boiled alive, the animal has a reason to make it the case that we have a reason to not boil the animal alive. Again, they may not be aware of this reason or be in a position to act on it, but the reason does exist. To say that they have such a reason is to say that they have a desire that would be served by creating such a state. And their desire not to be in pain is a desire that would be served by creating such a state. So from their research showing that animals feel pain, scientists cannot in fact infer that we have a reason not to boil them alive. They can only infer that the animals have a reason to make it the case that we have a reason not to boil them alive. Of course, the fact that an individual has a reason to make something true doesn't imply that it's true. The fact that the animals have a reason to make it the case that we have a reason not to boil them alive doesn't imply that we have a reason not to boil them alive. Now, among us humans, I find myself surrounded by people who have reasons to make it the case that I, and everybody else, have a reason not to tell lies, not to drive while drunk, not to take property without consent, not to rape, not to murder, and not to do any similar actions. I'm also surrounded by people who have reasons to make it the case that I, and everybody else, have reasons to keep promises, to repay debts, to help people in need. The fact that they have reasons to make it the case that we, the members of civil society, have such reasons to do such things doesn't imply that we already have those reasons. If we already had those reasons, people wouldn't need to put so much effort into creating them. Now I want to look at the last part of the quote. All such investigation reveals is the non-normative empirical fact that a certain animal can feel pain. It doesn't reveal the normative fact that this empirical fact gives us reason to act in certain ways. End quote. Stratton-Lake doesn't appear to notice the fact that this empirical investigation does reveal the normative fact that the animal has a reason to act in certain ways. Remember, Stratton-Lake's claim is that normative facts are non-natural properties, that they can't be derived from empirical facts. The animal's reason to avoid being boiled alive is a normative fact. It's a normative fact that can be derived directly from the empirical fact that animals can feel pain, and being boiled alive would be very painful. This shows at least one type of case in which a normative fact is a natural fact. And it is facts like this natural normative fact that provides reasons to cause others to have reasons not to perform acts that cause suffering and death. It's all that's required for people to have reasons to create and nurture in the population as a whole reasons not to lie, reasons not to take property without consent, to not rape, to not kill, or to keep promises and repay debts. So Stratton-Lake's argument that moral properties cannot be natural properties is mistaken. The animal's reasons to avoid being boiled alive can be derived from the biological fact that being boiled alive would be painful. The reasons not to be boiled alive are reasons to make it the case that we have reasons not to boil them alive. The fact that the animals are not aware of and can't act on those reasons to cause us to have reasons not to boil them alive doesn't imply that those reasons don't exist. The fact that they can't act on those reasons may doom them to suffer, unless other humans have an interest in creating reasons not to boil animals alive. In fact, humans do have reasons to cause other humans to find acts that cause pain and suffering to others repulsive. This means that humans have reasons to cause other humans to have reasons not to boil animals alive. And unlike the animals, humans can be aware of these reasons and they can act on them.